Hi everyone, I hope everyone's doing well and I miss you all. Mendy's asked me to talk a little bit about the Kinnis trip I went on last year. And so we're just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about my experience there and also its impact, more importantly, on my life since then. So the Kinnis, for those of you that don't know, is an annual event that Chabad Lubavitch worldwide have. It takes place in Crown Heights, and the Shluchim from all around the world, including many from Australia, come to a gathering in Crown Heights, and there's a lot of events taking place, a lot of talks. There's also a lot of camaraderie, a lot of meals, a lot of partying, and a massive dinner with holding 6,000 people to celebrate Chabad and Chabad way of life. And they do drag along a few lay people like myself, and Mendy was kind enough to ask me to join him last year, which was probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. So the Kinnis is a very significant event in the calendar of the Chabad cycle, and there is a women's one as well that I think Maxine's going to Mitzvah Hashem in February, March next year with Esther Malka. So she's really looking forward to that. So it's when Mendy asked me to talk about the Kinnis this time around, because I did talk about it in Shul when I got back late last year. It's a very different proposition, because when I came back from the Kinnis, which for me was, as I said, a life-changing event, I was full of emotion, full of endless possibilities, and that adrenaline was still running through me, very much so when I gave the talk in Shul. And talking about it now and thinking about the trip and what it's meant and what it means to me now many months later, it's interesting that the emotional high of the experience has certainly subsided, and what's left is really the residue of that trip. And to a very large extent, that residue is probably the most important aspect in terms of for me, how it's changed my life, because we know we can't sustain highs and lows in our life. They naturally subside and plateau off as time goes by, and no different to the Kinnis, which was, I think I mentioned in Shul, it was almost, I had Zach's, our oldest son's bar mitzvah in September last year, and that was an unbelievable emotional high rush that I wasn't anticipating and hadn't really experienced before. And the Kinnis was that feeling as well in last year. So it's difficult to maintain and sustain these highs. In fact, we can't as humans. So what's left is how it's changed you. And that's really, I think, what the Lubavitch Rebbe and what Hasidism is all about is, well, you can have these highs and you can have these experiences in life, but how does it fundamentally change you? And on my way home from the Kinnis, which took about 3 days to get home because we had flight cancellations, but I pretty much spent a lot of the time sitting on the plane on my laptop and writing down a surge of emotions and a surge of feelings and experiences that I just had during the 4-day trip with the Kinnis. And I hadn't read my notes for a long time, and I've just reread them now, and I had a whole list of things what I'd like to do when I got back to Melbourne, and how I'd like to achieve certain things, and probably mid-table on that. Probably had a few wins and a few losses, a few things that I have done and it has changed my life and I've consistently done since the Kinnis. A few things that I haven't done. But but that was an interesting concept. And so I've been rambling a lot, but one of the things I really wanted to refocus on was visiting the Rebbe's Ohel, the grave site, which I did twice, on the first day and on the last day. We did it with Mendy on the last day, and actually Schneer was there on the first day, and a few other guys from Dominion, and that was a really powerful experience. Mendy had readied me to the understanding and the significance of going to the Rebbe's gravesite, and before we went on the Kinnis, and that was really helpful because I was in New York the day before the Kinnis, and in Manhattan in my hotel room, and I spent some time writing about what my desires were and what the blessings that I wanted in my life. And I hadn't really ever done that before. I haven't really put pen to paper about my thoughts and my desires and my wants. And I tried to make it as meaningful as possible, and tried to really focus on what my real essential desires were in this life. And the usual things come up, family and health and friends and the wider community. And it's a fairly simple process, but a very powerful process. And so then the next day when I went to the Ohel, and we got to read from the Rebbe's original Mein Eloshen, which is a special prayer book that he would say at his his father-in-law's, the previous Rebbe's gravesite. He would recite the Mein Eloshen, and then you rip up your letter and you put it into the Ohel. It was a very meaningful experience, so much so that right at the end, in fact, on the way to the airport, Mendy and I, we did another trip to the Ohel and went through the same process. And I must say, it was a really, and hopefully I'll share a photo in this video, but it was a really beautiful experience being there with Mendy, appreciating his connection to the Rebbe and his fundamental knowledge with Chassidut. To be there with him, in a way, holding my hand, taking me through the process was really special for me, because it was special being at the Ohel, but what it made it even more special was being there with Mendy, being my rabbi and guiding me through that process. And it certainly wouldn't have been the same without Mendy. So that's my personal experience. That's my observation 9 months on from the last Kinnis, 10 months on from the last Kinnis. And it still has made a change in my life. And there are things that I do today and a way of me seeing the world today, which was different pre-Kinnis last year. And I encourage everyone who has the opportunity to go or has an interest to go, to, God willing, go at the next Kinnis with Mendy. And hopefully I might even join you. Anyway, all the best, and I miss everyone. And I hope you all have a great Shabbos. Bye.
Lagoon vergessen.
Hi everyone, I hope you're well, safe, sane, healthy. This week's Parasha is Parashat Shoftim, and Mendy asked me to say a few words about it. I found the following on age.com, and I will read it to you. A murder victim is found in a field between two cities. There are no clues and no witnesses to the identity of the assailant. The Torah demands an exact measurements to determine the closest city. The elders of that city have to declare, we were not derelict in our responsibilities to this traveler, and our hands did not spill this innocent blood. Then they go through a process of atonement called Egla Arufa. These laws seems to be wedged in between two chapters that talk about going out to war. What is it doing there? Rav Yaakov Yitzchak Ruderman, the Rosh Yeshiva of the guy who wrote that article, explained that the Torah is teaching us a lesson. In time of war, life becomes incredibly cheap. People are dying left, right, and center. Women, children, soldiers, civilians, life somehow loses its value. Therefore, right in the middle of the discussion of war, the Torah interrupts to present the laws of Egla Arufa, laws that underscore the extreme preciousness of each individual life. An entire city must bring atonement for the loss of one unidentified person who may or may not have passed through unnoticed. Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, in another story, the Rav of Brisk, once called a special meeting in the shul. My dear friends, we have a serious problem. The Star police have arrested a young Jewish boy. What did he do? Asked the congregants. He burned the Tsar in effigy. Regardless of what he did, Rav Chaim continued, the boy is in danger and we must get him out immediately. It's a question of money, just money. We are faced with a great mitzvah, said Rav Chaim. This is a true pidyon shvuim, ransoming captives. But when he said what the amount was, it was a large amount. Questions started to flow from the congregants. Who is the boy? Do we know him? Is he a yeshiva boy? Is he a member of our shul? Is he religious? To all those questions, the answer was no. One of the men threw up his hand in frustration. How will we raise money for a boy like that and such a large sum? I don't know, Reb Chaim said, but somehow it must be done. I am not coming to shul on Yom Kippur until the money is collected. Time passed and only a small amount of money was raised. Yom Kippur came, it was time for Kol Nidre, and Rav Chaim still had not come to shul. The elders of the community went to his house. I told you, he said, I'm not coming until you raise the money. It doesn't matter if the boy is religious or not. A Jewish soul is a Jewish soul. The community raised the money to ransom the boy. Every life is precious. Shabbat Shalom. Keep well, keep safe, and hopefully we'll see each other sooner than later at shul as a community.
The yard sites for the upcoming week. We wish Naomi Shonka long life for your father. Kalman Fried for your father, Moshe Fried. Denise Hillary Malkinson, Denise Leibowitz, and Ian Malkinson for your mother, Pauline. And Shmuel Smith for your mother. We wish you all long life. Upcoming birthdays, Leon Barmakov, Peter Birnbaum, Ilana Goldman, Chandi Groner, myself, Aaron Haber, and Joshua Slamoy. We wish you all a very happy birthday. And I'd also like to wish Bailey Rose a hearty mazel tov on his recent bar mitzvah, and to his parents, Adam and Linda. We wish you a very hearty mazel tov and lots of nachas from Bailey and from all your children. and also to Hari Mazel Tov to Josh Slamoy on his upcoming Bar Mitzvah, and to his parents, Lawrence and Lana. We wish you all lots of nachas from Josh and from all your children. And may we be able to celebrate all these bar mitzvahs and simchas in shul very soon. A person is likened to a tree. These are the famous words of this week's Parsha Shoftim. But why is a person likened to a tree? Isn't there a more befitting metaphor? Now, there's an intriguing medrash on the words of Psalms from King David, Yamav Ketzel Over, that a person's years is like a passing shadow. The medrash quotes the famous sage Rav Huna, who says there are three types of shadows. There's a shadow of a fleeting bird, there's a shadow of a wall, and there's a shadow of a tree. And Rav Huna concludes, would life be better if it would cast a shadow of a wall or generate the shadow of a tree? But unfortunately, it is like the shadow of a bird in flight. Yamav Ketzel Over. Our years, a person's years, is like a passing shadow. But what does this all mean? The message Rav Huna is saying is simple and profound. The three types of shadows of a bird, a wall, and a tree is a metaphor for three very different types of lifestyles. There's the lifestyle that generates the shadow of a fleeting bird. Then there's a lifestyle that generates the shadow of a wall. And then there's a lifestyle that generates the shadow of a tree. We all of us, leave an impact on this world. Each of us casts our shadow on the world around us. But the question is, how profound is that impact? How lasting is that shadow that we cast on the people around us and in the world around us? So Rav Huna is saying there are some people who are like a fleeting bird. Like a bird flies, the shadow flies with it. People fly through life. They're very, very busy. They live a long life. But it's like a fleeting bird. Just like a fleeting bird, the shadow fleets with it, comes and goes. So also these people are so basically so self-absorbed with themselves that they leave a very temporary shadow, a passing shadow, a passing impact on the world around them. There is a second category of people whose lives can be compared to the shadow of a wall. The shadow of a wall has some permanence in the early hours of the morning and in the late afternoon. But in the midday sun, the shadow fades and wanes, and there is no wall shadow. For some people, in their early years of life, in their youthful years, when they're idealistic, and also in the late years of their life, when things calm down, they get older, they're not as busy. At those times, they have time to reflect on how they can impact the world around them, how they can help other people and the world around them. But when the sun is burning hot in their lives, there's warmth and passion, when they're busy building their career and creating their image and status, they become very caught up with themselves and have no time to reflect on how they can impact others in the world around them. Finally, there is a life that is likened to the shadow of a tree. Under the branches of a tree, one can always find shade and comfort. Whether it's morning, midday, or evening, the tree casts its healing shade and invites everyone to bask in its tranquil and reinvigorating environment. This represents a person that never ceases to remember that they need to be a support and a source of love to all people around them. No matter what stage in their life, they see themselves as agents of love, hope, and trust. They don't become drunk on their accomplishments and always are reminded of their duties and responsibilities to their loved ones, to their community, to the Jewish nation, and to the world at large. So the lesson for us is that maybe we can't always be like a tree, but we should reflect on our lives and see how much of our lives is casting a long-lasting impact on the world around us. Let us work on ourselves and on our lives, that there should be at least like the shade of a wall, something more long-lasting than just the passing shadow of a fleeting bird. May you stay safe, healthy, and sane in this very trying time. Good Shabbos.